This is why the Al-Ansar are the unsung heroes of Medina. The Al-Ansar were the selfless residents of Medina who opened their hearts and homes to Prophet Muhammad and his followers. Their unwavering support and generosity were pivotal in the early days of Islam. They didn't just offer help. They became the backbone of a growing community. Discover the Al-Ansar, Medina's Pillars of Support. Volume 5, Book 58, number 119, narrated by Hisham's father. The people used to send presents to the Prophet on the day of Aisha's turn. Aisha said, "My companions, that is the other wives of the Prophet, gathered in the house of Salama and said, 0 Salama. By Allah, the people choose to send presents on the day of Aisha's turn, and we too love the good, that is presents, etc. As Aisha does. You should tell Allah's apostle to tell the people to send their presents to him wherever he may be, or wherever his turn may be." Salama said that to the Prophet, and he turned away from her, and when the Prophet returned to her, that is Salama, she repeated the same, and the Prophet again turned away, and when she told him the same for the third time, the Prophet said, "O Salama, don't trouble me by harming Aisha, for by Allah, the divine inspiration never came to me while I was under the blanket of any woman amongst you except her." Volume 5, Book 58, number 121, narrated by Aisha, the day of Bu'ath, that is day of fighting between the two tribes of the Ansar, the Aus and Khazraj, was brought about by Allah for the good of his apostle, so that when Allah's apostle reached Medina, the tribes of Medina had already divided and their chiefs had been killed and wounded. So Allah had brought about the battle for the good of his apostle in order that they, that is the Ansar, might embrace Islam. Volume 5, Book 58, number 122, narrated by Anas. On the day of the conquest of Mecca, when the Prophet had given from the booty, the Quraysh, the Ansar said, "By Allah, this is indeed very strange. While our swords are still dribbling with the blood of Quraysh, our war booty are distributed amongst them." When this news reached the Prophet, he called the Ansar and said, "What is this news that has reached me from you?" They used not to tell lies, so they replied, "What has reached you is true." He said, "Doesn't it please you that the people take the booty to their homes, and you take Allah's apostle to your homes? If the Ansar took their way through a valley or a mountain pass, I would take the Ansar's valley or a mountain pass." Volume 5, Book 58, number 123, narrated by Abu Huraira. The Prophet, or Abul Qasim, said, "If the Ansar took their way through a valley or a mountain pass, I would take Ansar's valley, and but for the migration, I would have been one of the Ansar." Abu Huraira used to say, "The Prophet is not unjust by saying so. May my parents be sacrificed for him, for the Ansar sheltered and helped him," or said a similar sentence. Volume 5, Book 58, number 124, narrated by Saad's father. When the emigrants reached Medina, Allah's apostle established the bond of fraternity between Abdur Rahman and Saad bin Arabi. Saad said to Abdur Rahman, "I am the richest of all the Ansar, so I want to divide my property between us, and I have 2 wives, so see which of the 2 you like and tell me, so that I may divorce her, and when she finishes her prescribed period, that is Ida, of divorce, then marry her." Abdur Rahman said, "May Allah bless your family and property for you. Where is your market?" So they showed him the Kainuka market. He went there and returned with a profit in the form of dried yogurt and butter. He continued going to the market, till one day he came, bearing the traces of yellow scent. The Prophet asked, "What is this scent?" He replied, "I got married." The Prophet asked, "How much mar did you give her?" He replied, "I gave her a date stone of gold or a gold piece equal to the weight of a date stone." The narrator Ibrahim is in doubt as to which is correct. Volume 5, Book 58, number 125, narrated by Anas. When Abdur Rahman bin Auf came to us, Allah's apostle made a bond of fraternity between him and Saad bin Arabi, who was a rich man. Saad said, "The Ansar know that I am the richest of all of them, so I will divide my property into 2 parts between me and you, and I have 2 wives. See which of the 2 you like so that I may divorce her, and you can marry her after she becomes lawful to you by her passing the prescribed period, that is Ida, of divorce." Abdur Rahman said, "May Allah bless you your family, that is wives for you." But Abdur Rahman went to the market, and did not return on that day, except with some gain of dried yogurt and butter. He went on trading just a few days, till he came to Allah's apostle bearing the traces of yellow scent over his clothes. Allah's apostle asked him, "What is this scent?" He replied, "I have married a woman from the Ansar." Allah's apostle asked, "How much mar have you given?" He said, a date stone weight of gold or a golden date stone? The Prophet said, arrange a marriage banquet even with a sheep. Volume 5, Book 58, number 126, narrated by Abu Huraira. The Ansar said to the Prophet, please divide the date palm trees between us and them, that is emigrants. The Prophet said, no. The Ansar said, let them, that is the emigrants, do the labor for us in the gardens and share the date fruits with us. The emigrant said, we accepted this. Volume 5, Book 58, number 127, narrated by Al-Bara. I heard the Prophet saying, or the Prophet said, none loves the Ansar but a believer, and none hates them but a hypocrite. So Allah will love him who loves them, and he will hate him who hates them. Volume 5, Book 58, number 128, narrated by Anas bin Malik. The Prophet said, the sign of belief is to love the Ansar, and the sign of hypocrisy is to hate the Ansar. Volume 5, Book 58, number 129, narrated by Anas. The Prophet saw the women and children of the Ansar coming forward. The sub-narrator said, I think that Anas said they were returning from a wedding party. The Prophet stood up and said thrice, by Allah, you are from the most beloved people to me. Volume 5, Book 58, number 130, narrated by Anas bin Malik. Once an Ansari woman, accompanied by a son of hers, came to Allah's apostle. Allah's apostle spoke to her and said twice, by him in whose hand my life is, you are the most beloved people to me. Volume 5, Book 58, number 131, narrated by Zayd bin al-Arqam. The Anwar said, O Allah's apostle, every prophet has his own followers and we have followed you. So will you invoke Allah to let our followers be considered from us, as Ansar too? So he invoked Allah accordingly. Volume 5, Book 58, number 132, narrated by Abu Hamza, a man from the Ansar. The Ansar said, every nation has followers, and O Prophet, we have followed you, so invoke Allah to let our followers be considered from us, as Ansar like ourselves. So the Prophet said, O Allah, let their followers be considered as Ansar like themselves. Volume 5, Book 58, number 133, narrated by Abu Usaid. The Prophet said, the best of the Ansar's families, homes, are those of Banu an-Najjar, and then those of Banu Abdul Ashhal, then those of Banu al-Harith bin al-Khazraj, and then those of Banu Sa'ida. Nevertheless, there is good in all the families, houses, of the Ansar. On this, Sa'd bin Ubadah said, I see that the Prophet has preferred some people to us. Somebody said to him, no, but he has given you superiority to many. Volume 5, Book 58, number 134, narrated by Abu Usaid, that he heard the Prophet saying, the best of the Ansar or the best of the Ansar families' homes are Banu an-Najjar, Bani Abdul Ashhal, Banu al-Harith and Banu Sa'ida. Volume 5, Book 58, number 135, narrated by Abu Humaid. The Prophet said, the best of the Ansar families, homes, are the families, homes, of Banu an-Najjar, and then that of Banu Abdul Ashhal, and then that of Banu al-Harith, and then that of Banu Sa'ida. And there is good in all the families, homes, of the Ansar. Sa'd bin Ubadah followed us and said, O Abu Usaid, don't you see that the Prophet compared the Ansar and made us the last of them in superiority? Then Sa'd met the Prophet and said, O Allah's apostle, in comparing the Ansar's families, homes, as to the degree of superiority, you have made us the last of them. Allah's apostle replied, isn't it sufficient that you are regarded amongst the best? Volume 5, Book 58, number 136, narrated by Usaid bin Hudayr. A man from the Ansar said, O Allah's apostle, will you appoint me as you have appointed so-and-so? The Prophet said, after me you will see others given preference to you, so be patient till you meet me at the tank, that is Lake of Kauthar, on the day of resurrection. Volume 5, Book 58, number 137, narrated by Anas bin Malik. The Prophet said to the Ansar, after me you will see others given preference to you, so be patient till you meet me, and your promised place of meeting will be the tank, that is Lake of Kauthar. Volume 5, Book 58, number 138, narrated by Yahya bin Sa'id. That he heard Anas bin Malik when he went with him to Al-Walid, saying, once the Prophet called the Ansar in order to give them the territory of Bahrain, they said, no, unless you give to our emigrant brethren a similar share. On that he said, if you do not agree to it, then be patient till you meet me, for after me, others will be given preference to you. Volume 5, Book 58, number 139, narrated by Anas bin Malik. Allah's apostle said, "There is no life except the life of the hereafter. So, O Allah, improve the state of the Ansar and the Muhajirun." And Anas added that the Prophet also said, "O Allah, forgive the Ansar." Volume 5, Book 58, number 140, narrated by Anas bin Malik. On the day of the Battle of the Trench, that is Ghazwat ul-Khandaq, the Ansar used to say, "We are those who have given the pledge of allegiance to Muhammad for jihad, that is holy fighting, as long as we live." The Prophet replied to them, "O Allah, there is no life except the life of the hereafter, so please honor the Ansar and the emigrants." Volume 5, Book 58, number 141, narrated by Saul. Allah's apostle came to us while we were digging the trench and carrying out the earth on our backs. Allah's apostle then said, "O Allah, there is no life except the life of the hereafter, so please forgive the emigrants and the Ansar." Volume 5, Book 58, number 142, narrated by Abu Huraira. A man came to the Prophet. The Prophet sent a messenger to his wives to bring something for that man to eat, but they said that they had nothing except water. Then Allah's apostle said, "Who will take this person or entertain him as a guest?" An Ansar man said, "I." So he took him to his wife and said to her, "Entertain generously the guest of Allah's apostle." She said, "We have got nothing except the meals of my children." He said, "Prepare your meal, light your lamp, and let your children sleep if they ask for supper." So she prepared her meal, lighted her lamp, and made her children sleep, and then stood up pretending to mend her lamp, but she put it off. Then both of them pretended to be eating, but they really went to bed hungry. In the morning the Ansari went to Allah's apostle, who said, "Tonight Allah laughed or wondered at your action." Then Allah revealed, "But give them, emigrants, preference over themselves even though they were in need of that. And whosoever is saved from the covetousness, such are they who will be successful." 59.9, Volume 5, Book 58, number 143, narrated by Anas bin Malik. Abu Bakr and Al-Abbas passed by one of the gatherings of the Ansar who were weeping then. He, that is Abu Bakr or Al-Abbas, asked, "Why are you weeping?" They replied, "We are weeping because we remember the gathering of the Prophet with us." So Abu Bakr went to the Prophet and told him of that. The Prophet came out tying his head with a piece of the hem of a sheet. He ascended the pulpit which he never ascended after that day. He glorified and praised Allah and then said, "I request you to take care of the Ansar as they are my near companions to whom I confided my private secrets. They have fulfilled their obligations and rights which were enjoined on them, but there remains what is for them. So, accept the good of the good doers amongst them, and excuse the wrongdoers amongst them." Volume 5, Book 58, number 144, narrated by Ibn Abbas. Allah's apostle, in his fatal illness, came out wrapped in a sheet covering his shoulders, and his head was tied with an oily tape of cloth till he sat on the pulpit, and after praising and glorifying Allah he said, "Then after, O people, the people will go on increasing, but the Ansar will go on decreasing till they become just like salt in a meal, so whoever amongst you will be the ruler and have the power to harm or benefit others, should accept the good of the good doers amongst them, and excuse the wrongdoers amongst them." Volume 5, Book 58, number 145, narrated by Anas bin Malik. The Prophet said, "The Ansar are my near companions to whom I confided my private secrets. People will go on increasing, but the Ansar will go on decreasing, so accept the good of the good doers amongst them and excuse the wrongdoers amongst them." Volume 5, Book 58, number 146, narrated by Al-Bara. A silken cloth was given as a present to the Prophet. His companions started touching it and admiring its softness. The Prophet said, "Are you admiring its softness? The handkerchiefs of Sa'd bin Mu'adh in paradise are better and softer than it." Volume 5, Book 58, number 147, narrated by Jabir. I heard the Prophet saying, "The throne of Allah shook at the death of Sa'd bin Mu'adh." Through another group of narrators, Jabir added, "I heard the Prophet saying, the throne of the Beneficent shook because of the death of Sa'd bin Mu'adh." Volume 5, Book 58, number 148, narrated by Abu Sa'id al-Khudri. Some people, that is the Jews of Bani bin Qurayza, agreed to accept the verdict of Sa'd bin Mu'adh, so the Prophet sent for him, that is Sa'd bin Mu'adh. He came riding a donkey, and when he approached the mosque the Prophet said, "Get up for the best amongst you," or said, "Get up for your chief." Then the Prophet said, "O Sa'd, these people have agreed to accept your verdict." Sa'd said, "I judge that their warriors should be killed, and their children and women should be taken as captives." The Prophet said, You have given a judgment similar to Allah's judgment or the king's judgment. Volume 5, Book 58, number 149, narrated by Anas. Two men left the Prophet on a very dark night. Suddenly a light came in front of them, and when they separated, the light also separated along with them. Volume 5, Book 58, number 150, narrated by Abdullah bin Amr. I heard the Prophet saying, "Learn the recitation of Quran from 4 persons, Ibn Masud, Salim, the freed slave of Abu Hudhaifa, Ubay, and Mu'ad bin Jabal." Volume 5, Book 58, number 151, narrated by Aisha. Aisha said, "Before that he, that is Sa'd, was a pious man." Volume 5, Book 58, number 152, narrated by Abu Usaid. Allah's apostle said, "The best of the Ansar's houses are those of Bani an-Najjar, then those of Bani Abdul Ashhal, then those of Bani al-Harith bin al-Khazraj, then those of Bani Sa'idah, but there is goodness in all the houses of the Ansar." Sa'd bin Ubadah, who was one of those who embraced Islam early, said, "I see that Allah's apostle is giving others superiority above us." Some people said to him, "But he has given you superiority above many other people." Volume 5, Book 58, number 153, narrated by Masruq. Abdullah bin Masud was mentioned before Abdullah bin Amr, who said, "That is a man I still love, as I heard the Prophet saying, 'Learn the recitation of Quran from 4 from Abdullah bin Masud.' He started with him, Salim, the freed slave of Abu Hudhaifa, Mu'ad bin Jabal, and Ubay bin Ka'b." Volume 5, Book 58, number 154, narrated by Anas bin Malik. The Prophet said to Ubay, "Allah has ordered me to recite to you, those who disbelieve, Surat al-Bayyinah 98. Ubay said, "Has he mentioned my name?" The Prophet said, "Yes." On hearing this, Ubay started weeping. Volume 5, Book 58, number 155, narrated by Qatada. Anas said, "The Quran was collected in the lifetime of the Prophet by 4 men, all of whom were from the Ansar, Ubay, Mu'ad bin Jabal, Abu Zaid, and Zaid bin Thabit." I asked Anas, "Who is Abu Zaid?" He said, "One of my uncles." Volume 5, Book 58, number 156, narrated by Anas. On the day of the Battle of Uhud, the people ran away, leaving the Prophet, but Abu Talha was shielding the Prophet with his shield in front of him. Abu Talha was a strong, experienced archer who used to keep his arrow bow strong and well stretched. On that day, he broke 2 or 3 arrow bows. If any man passed by carrying a quiver full of arrows, the Prophet would say to him, "Empty it in front of Abu Talha." When the Prophet stated looking at the enemy by raising his head, Abu Talha said, "O Allah's Prophet, let my parents be sacrificed for your sake. Please don't raise your head and make it visible, lest an arrow of the enemy should hit you. Let my neck and chest be wounded instead of yours." On that day, I saw Aisha, the daughter of Abu Bakr, and Sulaim both lifting their dresses up so that I was able to see the ornaments of their legs, and they were carrying the water skins of their arms to pour the water into the mouths of the thirsty people and then go back and fill them and come to pour the water into the mouths of the people again. On that day, Abu Talha's sword fell from his hand twice or thrice. Volume 5, Book 58, number 157, narrated by Sa'd bin Abi Waqqas. I have never heard the Prophet saying about anybody walking on the earth that he is from the people of paradise except Abdullah bin Salam. The following verse was revealed concerning him. "And a witness from the children of Israel testifies that this Quran is true." 46.10, Volume 5, Book 58, number 158, narrated by Qais bin Ubad. While I was sitting in the Mosque of Medina, there entered a man, Abdullah bin Salam, with signs of solemnity over his face. The people said, "He is one of the people of paradise." He prayed 2 light rakat and then left. I followed him and said, "When you entered the mosque, the people said, 'He is one of the people of paradise.'" He said, "By Allah, one ought not say what he does not know, and I will tell you why. In the lifetime of the Prophet I had a dream which I narrated to him. I saw as if I were in a garden." He then described its extension and greenery. He added, "In its center there was an iron pillar whose lower end was fixed in the earth, and the upper end was in the sky, and at its upper end there was a ring-shaped handhold. I was told to climb it. I said, 'I can't.' Then a servant came to me and lifted my clothes from behind, and I climbed till I reached the top of the pillar. Then I got hold of the handhold, and I was told to hold it tightly. Then I woke up, and, the effect of, the handhold was in my hand. I narrated that to the Prophet, who said, The garden is Islam and the handhold is the most truthworthy handhold, so you will remain as a Muslim till you die. The narrator added, the man was Abdullah bin Salam. Volume 5, Book 58, number 159, narrated by Abu Burda. When I came to Medina, I met Abdullah bin Salam. He said, will you come to me so that I may serve you with sawiq, that is powdered barley, and dates, and let you enter a blessed house, that in which the Prophet entered? Then he added, you are in a country where the practice of riba, that is usury, is prevalent. So if somebody owe you something and he sends you a present of a load of chopped straw or a load of barley or a load of provender, then do not take it, as it is riba. Volume 5, Book 58, number 160, narrated by Jarir bin Abdullah. Allah's apostle has never refused to admit me since I embraced Islam, and whenever he saw me, he would smile. In another narration, Jarir bin Abdullah narrated, there was a house called Dul Khalasa in the pre-Islamic period, and it was also called Al-Kaba al-Yamaniya, or Al-Kaba ash-Shamiyah. Allah's apostle said to me, will you relieve me from Dul Khalasa? So I left for it with 150 cavalrymen from the tribe of Amas, and then we destroyed it and killed whoever we found there. Then we came to the Prophet and informed him about it. He invoked good upon us and upon the tribe of Amas. Volume 5, Book 58, number 161, narrated by Aisha, on the day of the Battle of Uhud, the pagans were defeated completely. Then Satan shouted loudly, O Allah's slaves, beware the ones behind you. So the front files attacked the back ones. Then Hudhaifa looked and saw his father and said loudly, O Allah's slaves, my father, by Allah, they did not stop till they killed him. That is Hudhaifa's father. Hudhaifa said, may Allah forgive you. The sub-narrator said, by Allah, because of what Hudhaifa said, he remained in a good state till he met Allah, that is died. Volume 5, Book 58, number 162, narrated by Ali, I heard Allah's apostle saying, as below. Volume 5, Book 58, number 163, narrated by Ali. The Prophet said, the best of the world's women is Mary, at her lifetime, and the best of the world's women is Khadijah, at her lifetime. Volume 5, Book 58, number 164, narrated by Aisha. I did not feel jealous of any of the wives of the Prophet as much as I did of Khadijah, although she died before he married me, for I often heard him mentioning her, and Allah had told him to give her the good tidings that she would have a palace of kasab, that is pipes of precious stones and pearls in paradise, and whenever he slaughtered a sheep, he would send her women friends a good share of it. Volume 5, Book 58, number 165, narrated by Aisha. I did not feel jealous of any woman as much as I did of Khadijah because Allah's apostle used to mention her very often. He married me after 3 years of her death, and his Lord, or Gabriel, ordered him to give her the good news of having a palace of kasab in paradise. Volume 5, Book 58, number 166, narrated by Aisha. I did not feel jealous of any of the wives of the Prophet as much as I did of Khadijah, though I did not see her, but the Prophet used to mention her very often, and whenever he slaughtered a sheep, he would cut its parts and send them to the women friends of Khadijah. When I sometimes said to him, you treat Khadijah in such a way, as if there is no woman on earth except Khadijah, he would say, Khadijah was such, and from her I had children. Volume 5, Book 58, number 167, narrated by Ismail. I asked Abdullah bin Abi Awfa, did the Prophet give glad tidings to Khadijah? He said, yes, of a palace of kasab in paradise where there will be neither any noise nor any fatigue. Volume 5, Book 58, number 168, narrated by Abu Huraira. Gabriel came to the Prophet and said, O Allah's apostle, this is Khadijah coming to you with a dish having meat soup, or some food or drink. When she reaches you, greet her on behalf of her Lord, that is Allah, and on my behalf, and give her the glad tidings of having a kasab palace in paradise, wherein there will be neither any noise nor any fatigue, trouble. Narrated Aisha. Once Hala bint Khuwailid, Khadijah's sister, asked the permission of the Prophet to enter. On that the Prophet remembered the way Khadijah used to ask permission, and that upset him. He said, O Allah, Hala. So I became jealous and said, what makes you remember an old woman amongst the old women of Quraysh, an old woman, with a teethless mouth, of red gums who died long ago, and in whose place Allah has given you somebody better than her? Volume 5, Book 58, number 169, narrated by Abdullah bin Umar. The Prophet met Zayd bin Amr bin Nufail in the bottom of the valley of Balda before any divine inspiration came to the Prophet. A meal was presented to the Prophet, but he refused to eat from it. Then it was presented to Zayd, who said, I do not eat anything which you slaughter in the name of your stone idols. I eat none but those things on which Allah's name has been mentioned at the time of slaughtering. Zayd bin Amr used to criticize the way Quraysh used to slaughter their animals, and used to say, Allah has created the sheep, and he has sent the water for it from the sky, and he has grown the grass for it from the earth, yet you slaughter it in other than the name of Allah. He used to say so, for he rejected that practice and considered it as something abominable. Narrated Ibn Umar, Zayd bin Amr bin Nufail went to Sham, inquiring about a true religion to follow. He met a Jewish religious scholar and asked him about their religion. He said, I intend to embrace your religion, so tell me something about it. The Jew said, You will not embrace our religion unless you receive your share of Allah's anger. Zayd said, I do not run except from Allah's anger, and I will never bear a bit of it if I have the power to avoid it. Can you tell me of some other religion? He said, I do not know any other religion except the Hanif. Zayd inquired, What is Hanif? He said, Hanif is the religion of the Prophet, Abraham, who was neither a Jew nor a Christian, and he used to worship none but Allah alone. Then Zayd went out and met a Christian religious scholar and told him the same as before. The Christian said, You will not embrace our religion unless you get a share of Allah's curse. Zayd replied, I do not run except from Allah's curse, and I will never bear any of Allah's curse and his anger if I have the power to avoid them. Will you tell me of some other religion? He replied, I do not know any other religion except Hanif. Zayd inquired, What is Hanif? He replied, Hanif is the religion of the Prophet Abraham, who was neither a Jew nor a Christian, and he used to worship none but Allah alone. When Zayd heard their statement about the religion of Abraham, he left that place, and when he came out he raised both his hands and said, O Allah, I make you my witness that I am on the religion of Abraham. Narrated Asma bint Abi Bakr. I saw Zayd bin Amr bin Nufail standing with his back against the Kaaba and saying, O people of Quraysh, by Allah, none amongst you is on the religion of Abraham except me. He used to preserve the lives of little girls. If somebody wanted to kill his daughter, he would say to him, Do not kill her, for I will feed her on your behalf. So he would take her, and when she grew up nicely, he would say to her father, Now if you want her, I will give her to you, and if you wish, I will feed her on your behalf. Volume 5, Book 58, number 170, narrated by Jabir bin Abdullah. When the Kaaba was rebuilt, the Prophet and Abbas went to carry stones. Abbas said to the Prophet, Take off and put your waist sheet over your neck so that the stones may not hurt you. But as soon as he took off his waist sheet, he fell unconscious on the ground with both his eyes towards the sky. When he came to his senses, he said, My waist sheet, my waist sheet. Then he tied his waist sheet round his waist. Volume 5, Book 58, number 171, narrated by Amr bin Dinar and Ubaidullah bin Abi Yazid. In the lifetime of the Prophet, there was no wall around the Kaaba, and the people used to pray around the Kaaba till Umar became the caliph, and he built the wall around it. Ubaidullah further said, Its wall was low, so Ibn az-Zubar built it. Volume 5, Book 58, number 172, narrated by Aisha Ashura, that is the 10th of Muharram, was a day on which the tribe of Quraysh used to fast in the pre-Islamic period of ignorance. The Prophet also used to fast on this day, so when he migrated to Medina, he fasted on it and ordered the Muslims to fast on it. When the fasting of Ramadan was enjoined, it became optional for the people to fast or not to fast on the day of Ashura. Volume 5, Book 58, number 173, narrated by Ibn Abbas. The people used to consider the performance of Umrah in the months of Hajj an evil deed on the earth, and they used to call the month of Muharram as Safar, and used to say, When the wounds over the backs of the camels have healed and the footmarks of the camels have vanished after coming from Hajj, then Umrah becomes legal for the one who wants to perform Umrah. Allah's apostle and his companions reached Mecca assuming Ihram for Hajj on the 4th of Dhul Hijjah. The Prophet ordered his companions to perform Umrah with that Ihram instead of Hajj. They asked, O Allah's apostle, what kind of finishing of Ihram? The Prophet said, Finish the Ihram completely. Volume 5, Book 58, number 174, narrated by Sa'id bin al-Musayyab's grandfather. In the pre-Islamic period of ignorance, a flood of rain came and filled the valley in between the two mountains, around the Kaaba. Volume 5, Book 58, number 175, narrated by Qais bin Abi Hazim Abu Bakr, went to a lady from the Amas tribe called Zainab bint al-Muhajir, and found that she refused to speak. He asked, Why does she not speak? The people said, She has intended to perform Hajj without speaking. He said to her, "Speak, for it is illegal not to speak, as it is an action of the pre-Islamic period of ignorance." So she spoke and said, "Who are you?" He said, "A man from the emigrants." She asked, "Which emigrants?" He replied, "From Quraysh." She asked, "From what branch of Quraysh are you?" He said, "You ask too many questions. I am Abu Bakr." She said, "How long shall we enjoy this good order, that is Islamic religion, which Allah has brought after the period of ignorance?" He said, "You will enjoy it as long as your imams keep on abiding by its rules and regulations." She asked, "What are the imams?" He said, "Were there not heads and chiefs of your nation who used to order the people and they used to obey them?" She said, "Yes." He said, "So they, that is the imams, are those whom I meant." Volume 5, Book 58, number 176, narrated by Aisha, a black lady slave of some of the Arabs embraced Islam and she had a hut in the mosque. She used to visit us and talk to us, and when she finished her talk, she used to say, "The day of the scarf was one of our Lord's wonders. Verily, he has delivered me from the land of Kufr." When she said the above verse many times, I, that is, Aisha, asked her, "What was the day of the scarf?" She replied, "Once the daughter of some of my masters went out and she was wearing a leather scarf round her neck, and the leather scarf fell from her and a kite descended and picked it up, mistaking it for a piece of meat. They, that is my masters, accused me of stealing it, and they tortured me to such an extent that they even looked for it in my private parts. So, while they all were around me, and I was in my great distress, suddenly the kite came over our heads and threw the scarf and they took it. I said to them, 'This is what you accused me of stealing, though I was innocent.'" Volume 5, Book 58, number 177, narrated by Umar. The Prophet said, "If anybody has to take an oath, he should swear only by Allah. The people of Quraysh used to swear by their fathers, but the Prophet said, 'Do not swear by your fathers.'" Volume 5, Book 58, number 178, narrated by Abdur Rahman bin Al-Qasim. Al-Qasim used to walk in front of the funeral procession. He used not to get up for the funeral procession, in case it passed by him. And he narrated from Aisha that she said, "The people of the pre-Islamic period of ignorance used to stand up for the funeral procession. When they saw it, they used to say twice, 'You were noble in your family, what are you now?'" Volume 5, Book 58, number 179, narrated by Umar. The pagans used not to leave Jam, that is Muzdalifah, till the sun had risen on Thabir mountain. The Prophet contradicted them by leaving Muzdalifah before the sun rose. Volume 5, Book 58, number 180, narrated by Hussein. That Ikrimah said, "Kasan dihaka means glass full of something, followed successively with other full glasses." Ibn Abbas said, "In the pre-Islamic period of ignorance I heard my father saying, 'Provide us with kasan dihaka.'" Volume 5, Book 58, number 181, narrated by Abu Huraira. The Prophet said, "The most true word said by a poet was the words of Labid. He said, 'Verily, everything except Allah is perishable,' and Umayyah bin As-Salt was about to be a Muslim, but he did not embrace Islam." Volume 5, Book 58, number 182, narrated by Aisha. Abu Bakr had a slave who used to give him some of his earnings. Abu Bakr used to eat from it. One day he brought something and Abu Bakr ate from it. The slave said to him, "Do you know what this is?" Abu Bakr then inquired, "What is it?" The slave said, "Once in the pre-Islamic period of ignorance I foretold somebody's future, though I did not know this knowledge of foretelling, but I cheated him. And when he met me, he gave me something for that service, and that is what you have eaten from." Then Abu Bakr put his hand in his mouth and vomited whatever was present in his stomach. Volume 5, Book 58, number 183, narrated by Ibn Umar. In the pre-Islamic period of ignorance the people used to bargain with the meat of camels on the principle of habal al-habala, which meant the sale of a she-camel that would be borne by a she-camel that had not yet been born. The Prophet forbade them such a transaction. Volume 5, Book 58, number 184, narrated by Ghailan bin Jarir. We used to visit Anas bin Malik and he used to talk to us about the Ansaar, and used to say to me, "Your people did so-and-so on such and such a day, and your people did so-and-so on such and such a day." Volume 5, Book 58, number 185, narrated by Ibn Abbas. The first event of Qasama in the pre-Islamic period of ignorance was practiced by us, that is, Banu Hashim. A man from Banu Hashim was employed by a Qurayshi man from another branch family. The Hashimi laborer set out with the Qurayshi driving his camels. There passed by him another man from Banu Hashim. The leather rope of the latter's bag had broken, so he said to the laborer, Will you help me by giving me a rope in order to tie the handle of my bag lest the camels should run away from me?" The laborer gave him a rope and the latter tied his bag with it. When the caravan halted, all the camels' legs were tied with their fetters except one camel. The employer asked the laborer, "Why, from among all the camels has this camel not been fettered?" He replied, "There is no fetter for it." The Qurayshi asked, "Where is its fetter?" and hit the laborer with a stick that caused his death. Later on, just before his death, a man from Yemen passed by him. The laborer asked him, "Will you go for the pilgrimage?" He replied, "I do not think I will attend it, but perhaps I will attend it." The Hashimi laborer said, "Will you please convey a message for me once in your life?" The other man said, "Yes." The laborer wrote, "When you attend the pilgrimage, call the family of Quraysh, and if they respond to you, call the family of Banu Hashim, and if they respond to you, ask about Abu Talib and tell him that so-and-so has killed me for a fetter." Then the laborer expired. When the employer reached Mecca, Abu Talib visited him and asked, "What has happened to our companion?" He said, "He became ill, and I looked after him nicely, but he died, and I buried him." Then Abu Talib said, "The deceased deserved this from you." After some time, the messenger whom the laborer has asked to convey the message, reached during the pilgrimage season. He called, "O the family of Quraysh!" The people replied, "This is Quraysh." Then he called, "O the family of Banu Hashim!" Again the people replied, "This is Banu Hashim." He asked, "Who is Abu Talib?" The people replied, "This is Abu Talib." He said, "So-and-so has asked me to convey a message to you that so-and-so has killed him for a fetter of a camel." Then Abu Talib went to the Qurayshi killer and said to him, "Choose one of three alternatives. If you wish, give us 100 camels because you have murdered our companion. 2, or if you wish, 50 of your men should take an oath that you have not murdered our companion, and if you do not accept this, 3, we will kill you in Qisas." The killer went to his people and they said, "We will take an oath." Then a woman from Banu Hashim, who was married to one of them, the Qurayshis, and had given birth to a child from him, came to Abu Talib and said, "O Abu Talib, I wish that my son from among the 50 men should be excused from this oath, and that he should not take the oath where the oath-taking is carried on." Abu Talib excused him. Then another man from them came to Abu Talib and said, "O Abu Talib, you want 50 persons to take an oath instead of giving 100 camels, and that means each man has to give 2 camels in case he does not take an oath. So there are 2 camels I would like you to accept from me, and excuse me from taking an oath where the oaths are taken." Abu Talib accepted them from him. Then 48 men came and took the oath. Ibn Abbas further said, "By him in whose hand my life is, before the end of that year, none of those 48 persons remained alive." Volume 5, Book 58, number 186, narrated by Aisha. Allah caused the day of Bu'ath to take place before Allah's apostle was sent as an apostle, so that when Allah's apostle reached Medina, those people had already divided in different groups, and their chiefs had been killed or wounded. So Allah made that day precede Allah's apostle so that they, that is the Ansaar, might embrace Islam. Narrated Ibn Abbas, to run along the valley between 2 green pillars of Safa and Marwa mountains was not sunnah, but the people in the pre-Islamic period of ignorance used to run along it and used to say, "We do not cross this rain stream except running strongly." Volume 5, Book 58, number 187, narrated by Abu as-Safar. I heard Ibn Abbas saying, "O people, listen to what I say to you, and let me hear whatever you say, and don't go, without understanding, and start saying, 'Ibn Abbas said so-and-so, Ibn Abbas said so-and-so, Ibn Abbas said so-and-so.' He who wants to perform the tawaf around the Kaaba should go behind Al-Hijr, that is a portion of the Kaaba left out unroofed, and do not call it Al-Hatim. For in the pre-Islamic period of ignorance, if any man took an oath, he used to throw his whip, shoes, or bow in it." Volume 5, Book 58, number 188, narrated by Amr bin Maimun. During the pre-Islamic period of ignorance, I saw a she-monkey surrounded by a number of monkeys. They were all stoning it, because it had committed illegal sexual intercourse. I, too, stoned it along with them. Volume 5, Book 58, number 189, narrated by Sufyan. Ubaidullah said, I heard Ibn Abbas saying, "Following are some traits of the people of the pre-Islamic period of ignorance, to defame the ancestry of other families, 2, and to wail over the dead." Ubaidullah forgot the third trait. Sufyan said, "They say it, that is the third trait, was to believe that rain was caused by the influence of stars, that is, if a special star appears, it will rain." Volume 5, Book 58, number 190, narrated by Ibn Abbas. Allah's apostle was inspired divinely at the age of 40. Then he stayed in Mecca for 13 years, and then was ordered to migrate, and he migrated to Medina, and stayed there for 10 years, and then died. Volume 5, Book 58, number 191, narrated by Kababa. I came to the Prophet, while he was leaning against his sheet cloak in the shade of the Kaaba. We were suffering greatly from the pagans in those days. I said to him, "Will you invoke Allah to help us?" He sat down with a red face and said, "A believer among those who were before you used to be combed with iron combs so that nothing of his flesh or nerves would remain on his bones, yet that would never make him desert his religion. A saw might be put over the parting of his head which would be split into 2 parts, yet all that would never make him abandon his religion. Allah will surely complete this religion, that is Islam, so that a traveler from Sana to Hadramaut will not be afraid of anybody except Allah." The sub-narrator Bayan added, "or the wolf, lest it should harm his sheep." Volume 5, Book 58, number 192, narrated by Abdullah. The Prophet recited Surat an-Najm and prostrated, and there was nobody who did not prostrate then except a man whom I saw taking a handful of pebbles, lifting it, and prostrating on it. He then said, "This is sufficient for me." No doubt I saw him killed as a disbeliever afterwards. Volume 5, Book 58, number 193, narrated by Abdullah. While the Prophet was prostrating, surrounded by some of Quraysh, Uqba bin Abi Mu'ayt brought the intestines, that is, abdominal contents, of a camel and put them over the back of the Prophet. The Prophet did not raise his head, till Fatima came and took it off his back and cursed the one who had done the harm. The Prophet said, "O Allah, destroy the chiefs of Quraysh, Abu Jahl bin Hisham, Utbah bin Rabi'al, Shaba bin Rabi'a, Umayyah bin Khalaf, or Ubay bin Khalaf." The sub-narrator Shuba is not sure of the last name. I saw these people killed on the day of Badr battle and thrown in the well except Umayyah or Ubay, whose body parts were mutilated, but he was not thrown in the well. Volume 5, Book 58, number 194, narrated by Sa'id bin Jubair. Abdurrahman bin Abza said, "Ask Ibn Abbas about these 2 Quranic verses, nor kill such life as Allah has made sacred, except for just cause." 25.168. And whoever kills a believer intentionally, his recompense is hell. 4.93. So I asked Ibn Abbas, who said, when the verse that is in Surah Al-Furqan was revealed, the pagans of Mecca said, "But we have slain such life as Allah has made sacred, and we have invoked other gods along with Allah, and we have also committed fornication." So Allah revealed, "Except those who repent, believe and do good." 25.70. So this verse was concerned with those people. As for the verse in Surat An-Nisa, 4:93, it means that if a man, after understanding Islam and its laws and obligations, murders somebody, then his punishment is to dwell in the hell fire forever. Then I mentioned this to Mujahid, who said, "Except the one who regrets one's crime." Volume 5, Book 58, number 195, narrated by Urwa bin Az-Zubair. I asked Ibn Amr bin Alas, "Tell me of the worst thing which the pagans did to the Prophet." He said, "While the Prophet was praying in the hijr of the Kaaba, Uqba bin Abi Mu'ayt came and put his garment around the Prophet's neck and throttled him violently. Abu Bakr came and caught him by his shoulder and pushed him away from the Prophet and said, 'Do you want to kill a man just because he says, "My Lord is Allah"?" Volume 5, Book 58, number 196, narrated by Urwa as above, Hadith 195, Volume 5, Book 58, number 197, narrated by Ammar bin Yasir. I saw Allah's apostle, and the only converts to Islam with him were 5 slaves, 2 women, and Abu Bakr. Volume 5, Book 58, number 198, narrated by Abu Ishaq Sa'ud bin Abi Waqqas. None embraced Islam, except on the day I embraced it. And for 7 days I was one of the 3 persons who were Muslims, 1/3 of Islam. Volume 5, Book 58, number 199, narrated by Abdur Rahman. I asked Mazruk, who informed the Prophet about the jinns at the night when they heard the Quran. He said, "Your father Abdullah informed me that a tree informed the Prophet about them." Volume 5, Book 58, number 200, narrated by Abu Huraira. That once he was in the company of the Prophet carrying a water pot for his ablution and for cleaning his private parts. While he was following him carrying it, i.e. the pot, the Prophet said, "Who is this?" He said, "I am Abu Huraira." The Prophet said, "Bring me stones in order to clean my private parts, and do not bring any bones or animal dung." Abu Huraira went on narrating, so I brought some stones, carrying them in the corner of my robe till I put them by his side and went away. When he finished, I walked with him and asked, "What about the bone and the animal dung?" He said, "They are of the food of jinns. The delegate of jinns of the city of Nasibin came to me, and how nice those jinns were, and asked me for the remains of the human food. I invoked Allah for them that they would never pass by a bone or animal dung but find food on them." Volume 5, Book 58, number 201, narrated by Ibn Abbas. When Abu Dar received the news of the advent of the Prophet, he said to his brother, "Ride to this valley of Mecca, and try to find out the truth of the person who claims to be a prophet, who is informed of the news of heaven. Listen to what he says and come back to me." So his brother set out and came to the Prophet and listened to some of his talks and returned to Abu Dar and said to him, "I have seen him enjoining virtuous behavior and saying something that is not poetry." Abu Dar said, "You have not satisfied me as to what I wanted." He then took his journey food and carried a waterskin of his, containing some water, till he reached Mecca. He went to the mosque and searched for the Prophet, and though he did not know him, he hated to ask anybody about him. When a part of the night had passed away, Ali saw him and knew that he was a stranger. So when Abu Dar saw Ali, he followed him, and none of them asked his companion about anything, and when it was dawn, Abu Dar took his journey food and his waterskin to the mosque, and stayed there all the day long without being perceived by the Prophet, and when it was evening he came back to his retiring place. Ali passed by him and said, "Has the man not known his dwelling place yet?" So Ali awakened him and took him with him, and none of them spoke to the other about anything, when it was the third day. Ali did the same, and Abu Dar stayed with him. Then Ali said, "Will you tell me what has brought you here?" Abu Dar said, "If you give me a firm promise that you will guide me, then I will tell you." Ali promised him, and he informed Ali about the matter. Ali said, "It is true, and he is the apostle of Allah. Next morning when you get up, accompany me, and if I see any danger for you, I will stop as if to pass water, but if I go on, follow me and enter the place which I will enter." Abu Dar did so, and followed Ali till he entered the place of the Prophet, and Abu Dar went in with him. Abu Dar listened to some of the Prophet's talks, and embraced Islam on the spot. The Prophet said to him, "Go back to your people and inform them about it till you receive my order." Abu Dar said, "By him in whose hand my life is, I will proclaim my conversion loudly amongst them, that is the pagans." So he went out, and when he reached the mosque he said as loudly as possible, "I bear witness that none has the right to be worshipped except Allah, and Muhammad is the apostle of Allah." The people got up and beat him painfully. Then Al-Abbas came and knelt over him, to protect him, and said to the people, "Woe to you! Don't you know that this man belongs to the tribe of Gifar, and your trade to Sham is through their way?" So he rescued him from them. Abu Dar again did the same the next day. They beat him, and took vengeance on him, and again Al-Abbas knelt over him, to protect him. Volume 5, Book 58, number 202, narrated by Qais. I heard said bin Zaid bin Amr bin Nufail saying in the mosque of Al-Kufa, "By Allah, I have seen myself tied and forced by Umar to leave Islam before Umar himself embraced Islam, and if the mountain of Uhud could move from its place for the evil which you people have done to Uthman, then it would have the right to move from its place." Volume 5, Book 58, number 203, narrated by Abdullah bin Musud. We have been powerful since Umar embraced Islam. Volume 5, Book 58, number 204, narrated by Abdullah bin Umar. While Umar was at home in a state of fear, there came Al-Az bin Wail as-Sami Abu Amr, wearing an embroidered cloak and a shirt having silk hems. He was from the tribe of Bani Sam, who were our allies during the pre-Islamic period of ignorance. Al-Az said to Umar, "What is wrong with you?" He said, "Your people claim that they would kill me if I become a Muslim." Al-Az said, "Nobody will harm you after I have given protection to you." So Al-Az went out and met the people streaming in the whole valley. He said, "Where are you going?" They said, "We want Ibn al-Khattab, who has embraced Islam." Al-Az said, "There is no way for anybody to touch him." So the people retreated. Volume 5, Book 58, number 205, narrated by Abdullah bin Umar. When Umar embraced Islam, all the disbelieving people gathered around his home and said, "Umar has embraced Islam." At that time I was still a boy, and was on the roof of my house. There came a man wearing a cloak of dibaj, that is a kind of silk, and said, "Umar has embraced Islam. Nobody can harm him, for I am his protector." I then saw the people going away from Umar and asked who the man was, and they said, "Al-Az bin Wail." Volume 5, Book 58, number 206, narrated by Abdullah bin Umar. I never heard Umar saying about something that he thought it would be so-and-so, but he was quite right. Once, while Umar was sitting, a handsome man passed by him. Umar said, "If I am not wrong, this person is still on his religion of the pre-Islamic period of ignorance, or he was their foreteller. Call the man to me." When the man was called to him, he told him of his thought. The man said, "I have never seen such a day on which a Muslim is faced with such an accusation." Umar said, "I am determined that you should tell me the truth." He said, "I was a foreteller in the pre-Islamic period of ignorance." Then Umar said, "Tell me the most astonishing thing your female jinn has told you of." He said, "One day while I was in the market she came to me scared and said, 'Haven't you seen the jinns and their despair, and they were overthrown after their defeat and prevented from listening to the news of the heaven, so that they stopped going to the sky and kept following camel riders, that is Arabs?'" Umar said, "He is right," and added, "One day while I was near their idols there came a man with a calf and slaughtered it as a sacrifice for the idols. An unseen creature shouted at him, and I have never heard harsher than his voice. He was crying, 'Oh, you bold evildoer, a matter of success. An eloquent man is saying, none has the right to be worshipped except you, O Allah.' On that the people fled, but I said, 'I shall not go away till I know what is behind this.' Then the cry came again, 'Oh, you bold evildoer, a matter of success. An eloquent man is saying, none has the right to be worshipped except Allah.' I then went away, and a few days later it was said, 'A prophet has appeared.'" Volume 5, Book 58, number 207, narrated by Qais. I heard Said bin Zaid saying to the people, "If you but saw me and Umar's sister tied and forced by Umar to leave Islam while he was not yet a Muslim, and if the mountain of Uhud could move from its place for the evil which you people have done to Uthman, it would have the right to do that." Volume 5, Book 58, number 208, narrated by Anas bin Malik. The people of Mecca asked Allah's apostle to show them a miracle. So he showed them the moon split in two halves between which they saw the Hiram mountain. Volume 5, Book 58, number 209, narrated by Abdullah. The moon was split into two pieces while we were with the Prophet in Mina. He said, "Be witnesses." Then a piece of the moon went towards the mountain. Volume 5, Book 58, number 210, narrated by Abdullah bin Abbas. During the lifetime of Allah's apostle, the moon was split into two places. Volume 5, Book 58, number 211, narrated by Abdullah. The moon was split into two pieces. Volume 5, Book 58, number 212, narrated by Ubaidullah bin Adi bin Al-Qiyar, that Al-Miswar bin Makrama and Abdur-Rahman bin Al-Aswad bin Abu Yaghuth had said to him, "What prevents you from speaking to your uncle Uthman regarding his brother Al-Walid bin Uqba?" The people were speaking against the latter for what he had done. Ubaidullah said, "So I kept waiting for Uthman, and when he went out for the prayer I said to him, 'I have got something to say to you as a piece of advice.' Uthman said, 'O man, I seek refuge with Allah from you.' So I went away. When I finished my prayer I sat with Al-Miswar and Ibn Abu Yaghuth, and talked to both of them of what I had said to Uthman and what he had said to me. They said, 'You have done your duty.' So while I was sitting with them, Uthman's messenger came to me. They said, 'Allah has put you to trial.' I set out, and when I reached Uthman he said, 'What is your advice which you mentioned a while ago?' I recited Tashahhud, and added, 'Allah has sent Muhammad, and has revealed the holy book, that is Quran, to him. You, O Uthman, were amongst those who responded to the call of Allah and his apostle and had faith in him, and you took part in the first two migrations, to Ethiopia and to Medina, and you enjoyed the company of Allah's apostle and learned his traditions and advice. Now the people are talking much about Al-Walid bin Uqba, and so it is your duty to impose on him the legal punishment." Uthman then said to me, "O my nephew, did you ever meet Allah's apostle?" I said, "No, but his knowledge has reached me, as it has reached the virgin in her seclusion." Uthman then recited Tashahhud and said, "No doubt, Allah has sent Muhammad with the truth, and has revealed to him his holy book, that is Quran, and I was amongst those who responded to the call of Allah and his apostle, and I had faith in Muhammad's mission, and I had performed the first two migrations as you have said, and I enjoyed the company of Allah's apostle, and gave the pledge of allegiance to him. By Allah I never disobeyed him and never cheated him till Allah caused him to die. Then Allah made Abu Bakr caliph, and by Allah I was never disobedient to him nor did I cheat him. Then Umar became caliph, and by Allah I was never disobedient to him nor did I cheat him. Then I became caliph. Have I not then the same rights over you as they had over me?" I replied in the affirmative. Uthman further said, "The what are these talks which are reaching me from you? As for what you have mentioned about Al-Walid bin Uqub, Allah willing, I shall give him the leg, punishment justly." Then Uthman ordered that Al-Walid be flogged 4 lashes. He ordered Ali to flog him and he himself flogged him as well. Volume 5, Book 58, number 213. Narrated by Aisha Habiba and Salama, mentioned a church they had seen in Ethiopia, and in the church there were pictures. When they told the Prophet of this, he said, "Those people are such that if a pious man amongst them died, they build a place of worship over his grave, and paint these pictures in it. Those people will be Allah's worst creatures on the day of resurrection." Volume 5, Book 58, number 214. Narrated by Khalid bint Khalid. When I came from Ethiopia to Medina, I was a young girl. Allah's apostle made me wear a sheet having marks on it. Allah's apostle was rubbing those marks with his hand, saying, "Sana, Sana," that is good, good. Volume 5, Book 58, number 215. Narrated by Abdullah. We used to greet the Prophet while he used to be in prayers, and he used to reply to our greetings. But when we came back from Najashi, the king of Ethiopia, we greeted him while he was praying, and he did not reply to us. We said, "O Allah's apostle, we used to greet you in the past and you used to reply to us." He said, "Verily the mind is occupied and busy with more important matter during the prayer, so one cannot return one's greetings." Volume 5, Book 58, number 216, narrated by Abu Musa. We received the news of the departure of the Prophet to Medina while we were in Yemen. So we went on board a ship, but our ship took us away to An-Najashi, the Negus in Ethiopia. There we met Ja'far bin Abi Talib and stayed with him till we came to Medina, by the time when the Prophet had conquered Khaybar. The Prophet said, "O you people of the ship, you will have the reward of 2 migrations." Volume 5, Book 58, number 217, narrated by Jabir. When Negus died, the Prophet said, "Today a pious man has died, so get up and offer the funeral prayer for your brother Ashama." Volume 5, Book 58, number 218, narrated by Jabir bin Abdullah al-Ansari. Allah's apostle led the funeral prayer for the Negus and made us stand in rows behind him, and I was in the 2nd or 3rd row. Volume 5, Book 58, number 219, narrated by Jabir bin Abdullah. The Prophet offered the funeral prayer for Ashama, the Negus, with 4 takbir. Volume 5, Book 58, number 220, narrated by Abu Huraira. That Allah's apostle informed them, that is his companions, of the death of Negus, the king of Ethiopia, on the very day on which the latter died, and said, "Ask Allah's forgiveness for your brother." Abu Huraira further said, Allah's apostle made them, that is the Muslims, stand in rows at the Musalla, that is praying place, and led the funeral prayer for the Negus and said 4 takbir. Volume 5, Book 58, number 221, narrated by Abu Huraira. Allah's apostle, while going out for the battle of Hunain, said, "Tomorrow, Allah willing, we will encamp at Kaif Bani Kinana, where the pagans of Quraysh took the oath of Kufr against the Prophet, that is to be loyal to heathenism, by boycotting Banu Hashim, the Prophet's folk." See Hadith number 659, Vol 2. Volume 5, Book 58, number 222, narrated by Al-Abbas bin Abdul Muttalib, that he said to the Prophet, "You have not been of any avail to your uncle, Abu Talib, though, by Allah, he used to protect you and used to become angry on your behalf." The Prophet said, "He is in a shallow fire, and had it not been for me, he would have been in the bottom of the hell fire." Volume 5, Book 58, number 223, narrated by Al-Musayyab. When Abu Talib was in his deathbed, the Prophet went to him while Abu Jahl was sitting beside him. The Prophet said, "O my uncle, say, none has the right to be worshipped except Allah, an expression I will defend your case with, before Allah." Abu Jahl and Abdullah bin Umayyah said, "O Abu Talib, will you leave the religion of Abdul Muttalib?" So they kept on saying this to him, so that the last statement he said to them, before he died, was, "I am on the religion of Abdul Muttalib." Then the Prophet said, "I will keep on asking for Allah's forgiveness for you unless I am forbidden to do so." Then the following verse was revealed. It is not fitting for the Prophet and the believers to ask Allah's forgiveness for the pagans, even if they were their near relatives, after it has become clear to them that they are the dwellers of the hell fire. 9.113. The other verse was also revealed. O Prophet, verily, you guide not whom you like, but Allah guides whom He will. 28.56. Volume 5, Book 58, number 224, narrated by Abu Sa'id al-Khudri. That he heard the Prophet when somebody mentioned his uncle, that is Abu Talib, saying, "Perhaps my intercession will be helpful to him on the day of resurrection, so that he may be put in a shallow fire reaching only up to his ankles." his brain will boil from it. Volume 5, Book 58, number 225, narrated by Yazid as above, Hadith 224, using the words, will make his brain boil. Volume 5, Book 58, number 226, narrated by Jabir bin Abdullah, that he heard Allah's apostle saying, when the people of Quraysh did not believe me, that is the story of my night journey, I stood up in Al-Hijr, and Allah displayed Jerusalem in front of me, and I began describing it to them while I was looking at it. Volume 5, Book 58, number 227, narrated by Abbas bin Malik. Malik bin Sasa said that Allah's apostle described to them his night journey saying, while I was lying in Al-Hatim or Al-Hijr, suddenly someone came to me and cut my body open from here to here. I asked Al-Jarud who was by my side, what does he mean? He said, it means from his throat to his pubic area, or said, from the top of the chest. The Prophet further said, he then took out my heart. Then a gold tray of belief was brought to me, and my heart was washed and was filled with belief, and then returned to its original place. Then a white animal which was smaller than a mule and bigger than a donkey was brought to me. On this Al-Jarud asked, was it the Barak, O Abu Hamza? I, that is Anas, replied in the affirmative. The Prophet said, the animal's step was so wide that it reached the farthest point within the reach of the animal's sight. I was carried on it, and Gabriel set out with me till we reached the nearest heaven. When he asked for the gate to be opened, it was asked, who is it? Gabriel answered, Gabriel. It was asked, who is accompanying you? Gabriel replied, Muhammad. It was asked, has Muhammad been called? Gabriel replied in the affirmative. Then it was said, he is welcomed. What an excellent visit his is. The gate was opened, and when I went over the first heaven I saw Adam there. Gabriel said to me, this is your father, Adam. Pay him your greetings. So I greeted him, and he returned the greeting to me and said, you are welcomed, O pious son and pious prophet. Then Gabriel ascended with me till we reached the second heaven. Gabriel asked for the gate to be opened. It was asked, who is it? Gabriel answered, Gabriel. It was asked, who is accompanying you? Gabriel replied, Muhammad. It was asked, has he been called? Gabriel answered in the affirmative. Then it was said, he is welcomed, what an excellent visit his is. The gate was opened. When I went over the second heaven, there I saw Yahya, that is John, and Isa, that is Jesus, who were cousins of each other. Gabriel said to me, these are John and Jesus, pay them your greetings. So I greeted them, and both of them returned my greetings to me and said, you are welcomed, O pious brother and pious prophet. Then Gabriel ascended with me to the third heaven, and asked for its gate to be opened. It was asked, who is it? Gabriel replied, Gabriel. It was asked, who is accompanying you? Gabriel replied, Muhammad. It was asked, has he been called? Gabriel replied in the affirmative. Then it was said, he is welcomed, what an excellent visit his is. The gate was opened, and when I went over the third heaven there I saw Joseph. Gabriel said, to me, this is Joseph. Pay him your greetings. So I greeted him, and he returned the greeting to me and said, you are welcomed, O pious brother and pious prophet. Then Gabriel ascended with me to the fourth heaven and asked for its gate to be opened. It was asked, who is it? Gabriel replied, Gabriel. It was asked, who is accompanying you? Gabriel replied, Muhammad. It was asked, has he been called? Gabriel replied in the affirmative. Then it was said, he is welcomed, what an excellent visit his is. The gate was opened, and when I went over the fourth heaven, there I saw Idris. Gabriel said, to me, this is Idris, pay him your greetings. So I greeted him, and he returned the greeting to me and said, you are welcomed, O pious brother and pious prophet. Then Gabriel ascended with me to the fifth heaven and asked for its gate to be opened. It was asked, who is it? Gabriel replied, Gabriel. It was asked, who is accompanying you? Gabriel replied, Muhammad. It was asked, has he been called? Gabriel replied in the affirmative. Then it was said, he is welcomed, what an excellent visit his is. So when I went over the fifth heaven, there I saw Harun, that is Aaron. Gabriel said to me, this is Aaron, pay him your greetings. I greeted him, and he returned the greeting to me and said, you are welcomed, O pious brother and pious prophet. Then Gabriel ascended with me to the sixth heaven, and asked for its gate to be opened. It was asked, who is it? Gabriel replied, Gabriel. It was asked, who is accompanying you? Gabriel replied, Muhammad. It was asked, has he been called? Gabriel replied in the affirmative. It was said, he is welcomed, what an excellent visit his is. When I went over the sixth heaven, there I saw Moses. Gabriel said to me, this is Moses, pay him your greeting. So I greeted him, and he returned the greetings to me and said, "You are welcomed, O pious brother and pious prophet." When I left him, that is Moses, he wept. Someone asked him, "What makes you weep?" Moses said, "I weep because after me there has been sent as prophet a young man whose followers will enter paradise in greater numbers than my followers." Then Gabriel ascended with me to the seventh heaven, and asked for its gate to be opened. It was asked, "Who is it?" Gabriel replied, "Gabriel." It was asked, "Who is accompanying you?" Gabriel replied, "Muhammad." It was asked, "Has he been called?" Gabriel replied in the affirmative. Then it was said, "He is welcomed. What an excellent visit his is." So, when I went over the seventh heaven, there I saw Abraham. Gabriel said to me, "This is your father, pay your greetings to him." So I greeted him, and he returned the greetings to me and said, "You are welcomed, O pious son and pious prophet." Then I was made to ascend to Sidrat-ul-Muntaha, that is the lote tree of the utmost boundary. Behold, its fruits were like the jars of Hajar, that is a place near Medina, and its leaves were as big as the ears of elephants. Gabriel said, "This is the lote tree of the utmost boundary. Behold, there ran 4 rivers, 2 were hidden and 2 were visible." I asked, "What are these 2 kinds of rivers, O Gabriel?" He replied, "As for the hidden rivers, they are 2 rivers in paradise, and the visible rivers are the Nile and the Euphrates." Then Al-Bayt-ul-Mamur, that is the sacred house, was shown to me, and a container full of wine and another full of milk and a third full of honey were brought to me. I took the milk. Gabriel remarked, "This is the Islamic religion which you and your followers are following." Then the prayers were enjoined on me. They were 50 prayers a day. When I returned, I passed by Moses, who asked me, "What have you been ordered to do?" I replied, "I have been ordered to offer 50 prayers a day." Moses said, "Your followers cannot bear 50 prayers a day, and by Allah, I have tested people before you, and I have tried my level best with Bani Israel, in vain. Go back to your Lord and ask for reduction to lessen your followers' burden." So I went back, and Allah reduced 10 prayers for me. Then again, I came to Moses. But he repeated the same as he had said before. Then again, I went back to Allah, and he reduced 10 more prayers. When I came back to Moses, he said the same. I went back to Allah, and he ordered me to observe 10 prayers a day. When I came back to Moses, he repeated the same advice. So I went back to Allah, and was ordered to observe 5 prayers a day. When I came back to Moses, he said, "What have you been ordered?" I replied, "I have been ordered to observe 5 prayers a day." He said, "Your followers cannot bear 5 prayers a day, and no doubt, I have got an experience of the people before you, and I have tried my level best with Bani Israel, so go back to your Lord and ask for reduction to lessen your followers' burden." I said, "I have requested so much of my Lord that I feel ashamed, but I am satisfied now and surrender to Allah's order." When I left, I heard a voice saying, "I have passed my order and have lessened the burden of my worshippers." Volume 5, Book 58, number 228, narrated by Ibn Abbas regarding the statement of Allah. "And we granted the vision, ascension to the heavens, which we made you see, as an actual eyewitness, was only made as a trial for the people." 17.60. Ibn Abbas added, "The sights which Allah's apostle was shown on the night journey when he was taken to Bayt-ul-Maqdis, that is Jerusalem, were actual sights, not dreams. And the cursed tree, mentioned in the Quran, is the tree of Zaqqum itself." Volume 5, Book 58, number 229, narrated by Abdullah bin Ka'b, who was Ka'b's guide when Ka'b turned blind. I heard Ka'b bin Malik narrating, when he remained behind, that is, did not join, the Prophet in the Ghazwa of Tabuk. Ibn Bukhar in his narration stated that Ka'b said, "I witnessed the Al-Aqaba Pledge of Allegiance at night with the Prophet, when we jointly agreed to support Islam with all our efforts. I would not like to have attended the Badr battle instead of that Aqaba pledge, although Badr is more well known than it, amongst the people." Volume 5, Book 58, number 230, narrated by Jabir bin Abdullah. I was present with my 2 maternal uncles at Al-Aqaba, where the Pledge of Allegiance was given. Ibn Uyayna said one of the 2 was Al-Bara bin Marur. Volume 5, Book 58, number 231, narrated by Jabir. My father, my 2 maternal uncles and I were among those who took part in the Aqaba pledge. Volume 5, Book 58, number 232, narrated by Ubadah bin as-Samit, who had taken part in the Battle of Badr with Allah's Apostle, and had been amongst his companions on the night of Al-Aqaba pledge. Allah's Apostle, surrounded by a group of his companions, said, "Come along and give me the pledge of allegiance that you will not worship anything besides Allah, will not steal, will not commit illegal sexual intercourse, will not kill your children, will not utter, slander invented by yourself and will not disobey me if I order you to do something good. Whoever among you will respect and fulfill this pledge will be rewarded by Allah. And if one of you commits any of these sins and is punished in this world, then that will be his expiation for it. And if one of you commits any of these sins and Allah screens his sin, then his matter will rest with Allah. If he will punish him, and if he will excuse him. So I gave the pledge of allegiance to him for these conditions. Volume 5, Book 58, number 233, narrated by Ubadah bin as-Samit. I was one of the Naqibs who gave the Aqaba, pledge of allegiance to Allah's apostle. We gave the pledge of allegiance to him that we would not worship anything other than Allah, would not steal, would not commit illegal sexual intercourse, would not kill a person whose killing Allah has made illegal except rightfully, would not rob each other, and we would not be promised paradise. JF, we did the above sins. Then, if we committed one of the above sins, Allah will give his judgment concerning it. Volume 5, Book 58, number 234, narrated by Aisha. The Prophet engaged me when I was a girl of 6 years. We went to Medina and stayed at the home of Bani al-Harith bin Khazraj. Then I got ill and my hair fell down. Later on my hair grew, again, and my mother, Ruman, came to me while I was playing in a swing with some of my girlfriends. She called me, and I went to her, not knowing what she wanted to do to me. She caught me by the hand and made me stand at the door of the house. I was breathless then, and when my breathing became all right, she took some water and rubbed my face and head with it. Then she took me into the house. There in the house I saw some Ansari women who said, "Best wishes and Allah's blessing and a good luck." Then she entrusted me to them and they prepared me for the marriage. Unexpectedly, Allah's apostle came to me in the forenoon and my mother handed me over to him, and at that time I was a girl of 9 years of age. Volume 5, Book 58, number 235, narrated by Aisha, that the Prophet said to her, "You have been shown to me twice in my dream. I saw you pictured on a piece of silk and someone said to me, 'This is your wife.' When I uncovered the picture I saw that it was yours. I said, 'If this is from Allah, it will be done.'" Volume 5, Book 58, number 236, narrated by Hisham's father. Khadijah died 3 years before the Prophet departed to Medina. He stayed there for 2 years or so, and then he married Aisha when she was a girl of 6 years of age, and he consumed that marriage when she was 9 years old. Volume 5, Book 58, number 237, narrated by Abu Wail. We visited Kababa, who said, "We migrated with the Prophet for Allah's sake, so our reward became due and sure with Allah. Some of us passed away without taking anything of their rewards in this world, and one of them was Musa bin Umar, who was martyred on the day of the battle of Uhud, leaving a striped woolen cloak. When we covered his head with it, his feet became naked, and when covered his feet, his head became naked. So Allah's apostle ordered us to cover his head and put some idkir, that is a special kind of grass, on his feet. On the other hand, some of us have had their fruits ripened in this world, and they are collecting them." Volume 5, Book 58, number 238, narrated by Umar. I heard the Prophet saying, "The reward of deeds depends on the intentions, so whoever emigrated for the worldly benefits or to marry a woman, his emigration was for that for which he emigrated, but whoever emigrated for the sake of Allah and his apostle, his emigration is for Allah and his apostle." Volume 5, Book 58, number 239, narrated by Mujahid bin Jabir al-Maki, Abdullah. Bin Umar used to say, "There is no more hijra, that is migration, after the conquest of Mecca." Volume 5, Book 58, number 240, narrated by Atta bin Abi Rabah, Ubaid bin Umar al-Laythi, and I visited Aisha and asked her about the hijra, that is migration, and she said, "Today there is no hijra emigration. A believer used to run away with his religion to Allah and his apostle lest he should be put to trial because of his religion. Today Allah has made Islam triumphant, and today a believer can worship his Lord wherever he likes, but the deeds that are still rewardable in place of emigration are jihad and good intentions." See Hadith number 42, Vol. 4, Volume 5, Book 58, number 241, narrated by Aisha Sad said, "O Allah, you know that there is none against whom I am eager to fight more willingly for your cause than those people who disbelieved your apostle and drove him out of his city. O Allah, I think that you have ended the fight between us and them." Volume 5, Book 58, number 242, narrated by Ibn Abbas. Allah's apostle started receiving the divine inspiration at the age of 40. Then he stayed in Mecca for 13 years receiving the divine revelation. Then he was ordered to migrate and he lived as an emigrant for 10 years and then died at the age of 63 years. Volume 5, Book 58, number 243, narrated by Ibn Abbas. Allah's apostle stayed in Mecca for 13 years, after receiving the first divine inspiration, and died at the age of 63. Volume 5, Book 58, number 244, narrated by Abu Sa'id al-Khudri. Allah's apostle sat on the pulpit and said, Allah has given one of his slaves the choice of receiving the splendor and luxury of the worldly life, whatever he likes, or to accept the good of the hereafter, which is with Allah, so he has chosen that good which is with Allah. On that Abu Bakr wept and said, Our fathers and mothers be sacrificed for you. We became astonished at this. The people said, Look at this old man. Allah's apostle talks about a slave of Allah to whom he has given the option to choose either the splendor of this worldly life or the good which is with him, while he says, Our fathers and mothers be sacrifice I for you. But it was Allah's apostle who had been given option, and Abu Bakr knew it better than we. Allah's apostle added, No doubt I am indebted to Abu Bakr more than to anybody else regarding both his companionship and his wealth. And if I had to take a Khalil from my followers, I would certainly have taken Abu Bakr, but the fraternity of Islam is sufficient. Let no door, that is kuka, of the mosque remain open except the door of Abu Bakr. Volume 5, Book 58, number 245, narrated by Aisha, the wife of the Prophet. I never remembered my parents believing in any religion other than the true religion, that is Islam, and I don't remember a single day passing without our being visited by Allah's apostle in the morning and in the evening. When the Muslims were put to test, that is troubled by the pagans, Abu Bakr set out migrating to the land of Ethiopia, and when he reached Bark al-Gimad, Ibn ad-Dagina, the chief of the tribe of Kara, met him and said, O Abu Bakr, where are you going? Abu Bakr replied, My people have turned me out of my country, so I want to wander on the earth and worship my Lord. Ibn ad-Dagina said, O Abu Bakr, a man like you should not leave his homeland, nor should he be driven out, because you help the destitute, earn their livings, and you keep good relations with your kith and kin, help the weak and poor, entertain guests generously, and help the calamity-stricken persons. Therefore, I am your protector. Go back and worship your Lord in your town. So Abu Bakr returned, and Ibn ad-Dagina accompanied him. In the evening Ibn ad-Dagina visited the nobles of Quraysh and said to them, A man like Abu Bakr should not leave his homeland, nor should he be driven out. Do you, that is Quraysh, drive out a man who helps the destitute, earns their living, keeps good relations with his kith and kin, helps the weak and poor, entertains guests generously, and helps the calamity-stricken persons. So the people of Quraysh could not refuse Ibn ad-Dagina's protection, and they said to Ibn ad-Dagina, Let Abu Bakr worship his Lord in his house. He can pray and recite there whatever he likes, but he should not hurt us with it, and should not do it publicly, because we are afraid that he may affect our women and children. Ibn ad-Dagina told Abu Bakr of all that. Abu Bakr stayed in that state, worshipping his Lord in his house. He did not pray publicly, nor did he recite Quran outside his house. Then a thought occurred to Abu Bakr to build a mosque in front of his house, and there he used to pray and recite the Quran. The women and children of the pagans began to gather around him in great number. They used to wonder at him and look at him. Abu Bakr was a man who used to weep too much, and he could not help weeping on reciting the Quran. That situation scared the nobles of the pagans of Quraysh, so they sent for Ibn ad-Dagina. When he came to them they said, We accepted your protection of Abu Bakr on condition that he should worship his Lord in his house, but he has violated the conditions and he has built a mosque in front of his house where he prays and recites the Quran publicly. We are now afraid that he may affect our women and children unfavorably, so prevent him from that. If he likes to confine the worship of his Lord to his house, he may do so, but if he insists on doing that openly, ask him to release you from your obligation to protect him, for we dislike to break our pact with you, but we deny Abu Bakr the right to announce his act publicly. Ibn ad-Dagina went to Abu Bakr and said, O Abu Bakr, you know well what contract I have made on your behalf. Now you are either to abide by it or else release me from my obligation of protecting you, because I do not want the Arabs hear that my people have dishonored a contract I have made on behalf of another man. Abu Bakr replied, I release you from your pact to protect me, and am pleased with the protection from Allah. At that time the Prophet was in Mecca, and he said to the Muslims, In a dream I have been shown your migration place, a land of date palm trees between two mountains, the two stony tracks. So some people migrated to Medina, and most of those people who had previously migrated to the land of Ethiopia returned to Medina. Abu Bakr also prepared to leave for Medina, but Allah's apostle said to him, "Wait for a while because I hope that I will be allowed to migrate also." Abu Bakr said, "Do you indeed expect this? Let my father be sacrificed for you." The Prophet said, "Yes." So Abu Bakr did not migrate for the sake of Allah's apostle in order to accompany him. He fed 2 she-camels he possessed with the leaves of as-samur tree that fell on being struck by a stick for 4 months. One day, while we were sitting in Abu Bakr's house at noon, someone said to Abu Bakr, "This is Allah's apostle with his head covered coming at a time at which he never used to visit us before." Abu Bakr said, "May my parents be sacrificed for him. By Allah, he has not come at this hour except for a great necessity." So Allah's apostle came and asked permission to enter, and he was allowed to enter. When he entered, he said to Abu Bakr, "Tell everyone who is present with you to go away." Abu Bakr replied, "There are none but your family. May my father be sacrificed for you, O Allah's apostle." The Prophet said, "I have been given permission to migrate." Abu Bakr said, "Shall I accompany you? May my father be sacrificed for you, O Allah's apostle." Allah's apostle said, "Yes." Abu Bakr said, "O Allah's apostle, may my father be sacrificed for you. Take one of these 2 she-camels of mine." Allah's apostle replied, "I will accept it, with payment." So we prepared the baggage quickly and put some journey food in a leather bag for them. Asma, Abu Bakr's daughter, cut a piece from her waist belt and tied the mouth of the leather bag with it, and for that reason she was named Dat Nidakain, that is the owner of 2 belts. Then Allah's apostle and Abu Bakr reached a cave on the mountain of Thawr and stayed there for 3 nights. Abdullah bin Abi Bakr, who was intelligent and a sagacious youth, used to stay with them every night. He used to leave them before daybreak so that in the morning he would be with Quraysh as if he had spent the night in Mecca. He would keep in mind any plot made against them, and when it became dark he would go and inform them of it. Amir bin Fuhaira, the freed slave of Abu Bakr, used to bring the milch sheep of his master Abu Bakr to them a little while after nightfall in order to rest the sheep there. So they always had fresh milk at night, the milk of their sheep, and the milk which they warmed by throwing heated stones in it. Amir bin Fuhaira would then call the herd away when it was still dark before daybreak. He did the same in each of those 3 nights. Allah's apostle and Abu Bakr had hired a man from the tribe of Bani ad-Dail from the family of Bani Abd bin Adi as an expert guide, and he was in alliance with the family of Al-Az bin Wail as-Sami, and he was on the religion of the infidels of Quraysh. The Prophet and Abu Bakr trusted him and gave him their 2 she-camels and took his promise to bring their 2 she-camels to the cave of the mountain of Thawr in the morning after 3 nights later. And when they set out, Amir bin Fuhaira and the guide went along with them, and the guide led them along the seashore. The nephew of Suraka bin Jusham said that his father informed him that he heard Suraka bin Jusham saying, "The messengers of the heathens of Quraysh came to us declaring that they had assigned for the persons why would kill or arrest Allah's apostle and Abu Bakr a reward equal to their blood money. While I was sitting in one of the gatherings of my tribe, Bani Mudlij, a man from them, came to us and stood up while we were sitting and said, 'O Suraka, no doubt I have just seen some people far away on the seashore and I think they are Muhammad and his companions.' Suraka added, 'I too realized that it must have been they. But I said, no, it is not they, but you have seen so-and-so and so-and-so whom we saw set out.' I stayed in the gathering for a while and then got up and left for my home, and ordered my slave girl to get my horse which was behind a hillock, and keep it ready for me. Then I took my spear and left by the back door of my house, dragging the lower end of the spear on the ground and keeping it low. Then I reached my horse, mounted it and made it gallop. When I approached them, that is Muhammad and Abu Bakr, my horse stumbled, and I fell down from it. Then I stood up, got hold of my quiver, and took out the divining arrows, and drew lots as to whether I should harm them, that is the Prophet and Abu Bakr, or not, and the lot which I disliked came out. But I remounted my horse and let it gallop, giving no importance to the divining arrows. When I heard the recitation of the Quran by Allah's apostle, who did not look hither and thither while Abu Bakr was doing it often, suddenly the forelegs of my horse sank into the ground up to the knees, and I fell down from it. Then I rebuked it, and it got up, but could hardly take out its forelegs from the ground, and when it stood up straight again, its forelegs caused dust to rise up in the sky like smoke. Then again I drew lots with the divining arrows, and the lot which I disliked came out. So I called upon them to feel secure. They stopped, and I remounted my horse and went to them. When I saw how I had been hampered from harming them, it came to my mind that the cause of Allah's apostle, that is Islam, will become victorious. So I said to him, "Your people have assigned a reward equal to the blood money for your head." Then I told them all the plans the people of Mecca had made concerning them. Then I offered them some journey food and goods, but they refused to take anything and did not ask for anything, but the Prophet said, "Do not tell others about us." Then I requested him to write for me a statement of security and peace. He ordered Amr bin Fuhaira, who wrote it for me on a parchment, and then Allah's apostle proceeded on his way. Narrated Urwa bin Az-Zubair. Allah's apostle met Az-Zubair in a caravan of Muslim merchants who were returning from Sham. Az-Zubair provided Allah's apostle and Abu Bakr with white clothes to wear. When the Muslims of Medina heard the news of the departure of Allah's apostle from Mecca towards Medina, they started going to the Hara every morning. They would wait for him till the heat of the noon forced them to return. One day, after waiting for a long while, they returned home, and when they went into their houses, a Jew climbed up the roof of one of the forts of his people to look for something, and he saw Allah's apostle and his companions dressed in white clothes emerging out of the desert mirage. The Jew could not help shouting at the top of his voice, "O you Arabs, here is your great man whom you have been waiting for." So all the Muslims rushed to their arms and received Allah's apostle on the summit of Hara. The Prophet turned with them to the right and alighted at the quarters of Bani Amr bin Auf, and this was on Monday in the month of Rabi'ul Awal. Abu Bakr stood up, receiving the people while Allah's apostle sat down and kept silent. Some of the Ansaar who came and had not seen Allah's apostle before began greeting Abu Bakr, but when the sunshine fell on Allah's apostle and Abu Bakr came forward and shaded him with his sheet, only then the people came to know Allah's apostle. Allah's apostle stayed with Bani Amr bin Auf for 10 nights and established the mosque of Quba, which was founded on piety. Allah's apostle prayed in it and then mounted his she-camel and proceeded on, accompanied by the people till his she-camel knelt down at the place of the mosque of Allah's apostle at Medina. Some Muslims used to pray there in those days, and that place was a yard for drying dates belonging to Suhail and Saul, the orphan boys who were under the guardianship of Asad bin Zurara. When his she-camel knelt down, Allah's apostle said, "This place, Allah willing, will be our abiding place." Allah's apostle then called the 2 boys and told them to suggest a price for that yard so that he might take it as a mosque. The 2 boys said, "No, but we will give it as a gift, O Allah's apostle." Allah's apostle then built a mosque there. The Prophet himself started carrying unburnt bricks for its building, and while doing so he was saying, "This load is better than the load of Khaybar, for it is more pious in the sight of Allah, and purer and better rewardable." He was also saying, "O Allah, the actual reward is the reward in the hereafter, so bestow your mercy on the Ansaar and the emigrants." Thus the Prophet recited, by way of proverb, the poem of some Muslim poet whose name is unknown to me. Ibn Shibab said, "In the hadiths it does not occur that Allah's apostle recited a complete poetic verse other than this one." Volume 5, Book 58, number 246, narrated by Asma. I prepared the journey food for the Prophet and Abu Bakr when they wanted to migrate to Medina. I said to my father, Abu Bakr, "I do not have anything to tie the container of the journey food with except my waist belt." He said, "Divide it lengthwise into 2. I did so, and for this reason I was named Dat-un-Nitakain, that is the owner of 2 belts. Ibn Abbas said, Asma, Dat-un-Nitak. Volume 5, Book 58, number 247, narrated by Al-Bara. When the Prophet migrated to Medina, Suraka bin Malik bin Jusham pursued him. The Prophet invoked evil on him, therefore the forelegs of his horse sank into the ground. Suraka said to the Prophet, "Invoke Allah to rescue me, and I will not harm you." The Prophet invoked Allah for him. Then Allah's apostle felt thirsty and he passed by a shepherd. Abu Bakr said, "I took a bowl and milked a little milk in it and brought it to the Prophet, and he drank till I was pleased." Volume 5, Book 58, number 248, narrated by Asma, that she conceived Abdullah bin Az-Zubair. She added, "I migrated to Medina while I was at full term of pregnancy and alighted at Quba where I gave birth to him. Then I brought him to the Prophet and put him in his lap. The Prophet asked for a date, chewed it, and put some of its juice in the child's mouth. So, the first thing that entered the child's stomach was the saliva of Allah's apostle. Then the prophet rubbed the child's palate with a date and invoked for Allah's blessings on him, and he was the first child born amongst the emigrants in the Islamic land, that is Medina. Volume 5, Book 58, number 249, narrated by Aisha. The first child who was born in the Islamic land, that is Medina, amongst the emigrants was Abdullah bin Az-Zubair. They brought him to the Prophet. The Prophet took a date, and after chewing it, put its juice in his mouth. So the first thing that went into the child's stomach was the saliva of the Prophet. Volume 5, Book 58, number 250, narrated by Anas bin Malik. Allah's apostle arrived at Medina with Abu Bakr, riding behind him on the same camel. Abu Bakr was an elderly man known to the people, while Allah's apostle was a youth that was unknown. Thus, if a man met Abu Bakr, he would say, "O Abu Bakr, who is this man in front of you?" Abu Bakr would say, "This man shows me the way." One would think that Abu Bakr meant the road, while in fact Abu Bakr meant the way of virtue and good. Then Abu Bakr looked behind and saw a horse rider pursuing them. He said, "O Allah's apostle, this is a horse rider pursuing us." The Prophet looked behind and said, "O Allah, cause him to fall down." So the horse threw him down and got up neighing. After that the rider, Suraka, said, "O Allah's Prophet, order me whatever you want." The Prophet said, "Stay where you are and do not allow anybody to reach us." So in the first part of the day Suraka was an enemy of Allah's Prophet, and in the last part of it he was a protector. Then Allah's apostle alighted by the side of the Al-Hara, and sent a message to the Ansaar, and they came to Allah's Prophet and Abu Bakr, and having greeted them they said, "Ride your she-camels, safe," and obeyed. Allah's apostle and Abu Bakr rode, and the Ansaar, carrying their arms, surrounded them. The news that Allah's Prophet had come circulated in Medina. The people came out and were eagerly looking and saying, "Allah's Prophet has come, Allah's Prophet has come." So the Prophet went on till he alighted near the house of Abu Ayyub. While the Prophet was speaking with the family members of Abu Ayyub, Abdullah bin Salam heard the news of his arrival, while he himself was picking the dates for his family from his family garden. He hurried to the Prophet carrying the dates which he had collected for his family from the garden. He listened to Allah's Prophet and then went home. Then Allah's Prophet said, "Which is the nearest of the houses of our kith and kin?" Abu Ayyub replied, "Mine, O Allah's Prophet, this is my house and this is my gate." The Prophet said, "Go and prepare a place for our midday rest." Abu Ayyub said, "Get up, both of you, with Allah's blessings." So when Allah's Prophet went into the house, Abdullah bin Salam came and said, "I testify that you, that is Muhammad, are apostle of Allah and that you have come with the truth. The Jews know well that I am their chief and the son of their chief and the most learned amongst them and the son of the most learned amongst them. So send for them, that is Jews, and ask them about me before they know that I have embraced Islam, for if they know that they will say about me things which are not correct." So Allah's apostle sent for them, and they came and entered. Allah's apostle said to them, "O the group of Jews, woe to you, be afraid of Allah, by Allah except whom none has the right to be worshipped, you people know for certain that I am apostle of Allah, and that I have come to you with the truth, so embrace Islam." The Jews replied, "We do not know this." So they said this to the Prophet, and he repeated it thrice. Then he said, "What sort of a man is Abdullah bin Salam amongst you?" They said, "He is our chief and the son of our chief and the most learned man and the son of the most learned amongst us." He said, "What would you think if he should embrace Islam?" They said, "Allah forbid, he cannot embrace Islam." He said, "What would you think if he should embrace Islam?" They said, "Allah forbid, he cannot embrace Islam." He said, "What would you think if he should embrace Islam?" They said, "Allah forbid, he cannot embrace Islam." He said, "O Ibn Salam, come out to them." He came out and said, "O, the group of Jews, ain't ye afraid of Allah except whom none has the right to be worshipped? You know for certain that he is apostle of Allah and that he has brought a true religion." They said, "You tell a lie." On that Allah's apostle turned them out. Volume 5, Book 58, number 251, narrated by Ibn Umar. Umar bin al-Khattab fixed a grant of 4,000 dirhams for every early emigrant, that is Muhajir, and fixed a grant of 3,500 dirhams only for Ibn Umar. Somebody said to Umar, "Ibn Umar is also one of the early emigrants, why do you give him less than 4,000? Umar replied, "His parents took him with them when they migrated, so he was not like the one who had migrated by himself." Volume 5, Book 58, number 252, narrated by Kabab. We migrated with Allah's apostle, see Hadith number 253 below. Volume 5, Book 58, number 253, narrated by Khabab. We migrated with Allah's apostle seeking Allah's countenance, so our rewards became due and sure with Allah. Some of us passed away without eating anything of their rewards in this world. One of these was Musab bin Umar, who was martyred on the day of the Battle of Uhud. We did not find anything to shroud his body with except a striped cloak. When we covered his head with it, his feet remained uncovered, and when we covered his feet with it, his head remained uncovered. So Allah's apostle ordered us to cover his head with it, and put some idkir, that is a kind of grass, over his feet. And there are some amongst us whose fruits have ripened, and they are collecting them, that is, they have received their rewards in this world. Volume 5, Book 58, number 254, narrated by Abu Burda bin Abi Musa al-Ash'ari. Abdullah bin Umar said to me, "Do you know what my father said to your father once?" I said no. He said, "My father said to your father, 'O Abu Musa, will it please you that we will be rewarded for our conversion to Islam with Allah's apostle, and our migration with him, and our jihad with him, and all our good deeds which we did with him, and that all the deeds we did after his death will be disregarded whether good or bad?' Your father, that is Abu Musa, said, 'No, by Allah, we took part in jihad after Allah's apostle, prayed and did plenty of good deeds, and many people have embraced Islam at our hands, and no doubt we expect rewards from Allah for these good deeds.' On that my father, that is Umar, said, 'As for myself, by him in whose hand Umar's soul is, I wish that the deeds done by us at the time of the Prophet remain rewardable, while whatsoever we did after the death of the Prophet be enough to save us from punishment, in that the good deeds compensate for the bad ones.' On that I said to Ibn Umar, 'By Allah, your father was better than my father.' Volume 5, Book 58, number 255, narrated by Abu Uthman. I heard that Ibn Umar used to become angry if someone mentioned that he had migrated before his father, Umar, and he used to say, 'Umar and I came to Allah's apostle and found him having his midday rest, so we returned home. Then Umar sent me again to the Prophet, and said, "Go and see whether he is awake." I went to him and entered his place and gave him the pledge of allegiance. Then I went back to Umar and informed him that the Prophet was awake. So we both went running slowly, and when Umar entered his place he gave him the pledge of allegiance, and thereafter I too gave him the pledge of allegiance. Volume 5, Book 58, number 256, narrated by Al-Bara Abu Bakr, bought a camel's saddle from Azib, and I carried it for him. Azib, that is my father, asked Abu Bakr regarding the journey of the migration of Allah's apostle. Abu Bakr said, "Close observers were appointed by our enemies to watch us. So we went out at night and traveled throughout the night and the following day till it was noon. Then we perceived a rock and went towards it, and there was some shade under it. I spread a cloak I had with me for Allah's apostle, and then the Prophet laid on it. I went out to guard him, and all of a sudden I saw a shepherd coming with his sheep, looking for the shade of the rock as we did. I asked him, 'O boy, to whom do you belong?' He replied, 'I belong to so-and-so.' I asked him, 'Is there some milk in your sheep?' He replied in the affirmative. I asked him, 'Will you milk?' He replied in the affirmative. Then he got hold of one of his sheep. I said to him, 'Remove the dust from its udder.' Then he milked a little milk. I had a water skin with me which was tied with a piece of cloth. I had prepared the water skin for Allah's apostle, so I poured some water over the milk container till its bottom became cold. Then I brought the milk to the Prophet and said, 'Drink, O Allah's apostle.' Allah's apostle drank till I became pleased. Then we departed, and the pursuers were following us." Al-Bara added, "I then went with Abu Bakr into his home, carrying that saddle, and there I saw his daughter, Aisha, lying in a bed because of heavy fever, and I saw her father Abu Bakr kissing her cheek and saying, 'How are you, little daughter?'" Volume 5, Book 58, number 257, narrated by Anas, the servant of the Prophet. When the Prophet arrived at Medina, there was not a single companion of the Prophet who had gray and black hair except Abu Bakr, and he dyed his hair with henna and katam, that is, plants used for dyeing hair. Through another group of narrators, Anas bin Malik said, "When the Prophet arrived at Medina, the eldest amongst his companions was Abu Bakr. He dyed his hair with henna and katam till it became of dark red color." Volume 5, Book 58, number 258, narrated by Aisha Abu Bakr, married a woman from the tribe of Bani Kalb called Bakr. When Abu Bakr migrated to Medina, he divorced her and she was married by her cousin, the poet who said the following poem lamenting the infidels of Quraysh. "What is there kept in the well of Badr, the owners of the trays of roasted camel humps? What is there kept in the well of Badr, the owners of, lady singers and friends of the honorable companions, who used to drink wine together? Bakr greets us with the greeting of peace, but can I find peace after my people have gone? The apostle tells us that we shall live again, but what sort of life will owls and skulls live? Volume 5, Book 58, number 259, narrated by Abu Bakr. I was with the Prophet in the cave. When I raised my head I saw the feet of the people. I said, O Allah's apostle, if some of them should look down, they will see us. The Prophet said, O Abu Bakr, be quiet, for we are two, and Allah is the third of us. Volume 5, Book 58, number 260, narrated by Abu Sa'id. Once a Bedouin came to the Prophet and asked him about the migration. The Prophet said, Mercy of Allah be on you, the migration is a quite difficult matter, have you got some camels? He replied in the affirmative. Then the Prophet said, Do you give their zakat? He replied in the affirmative. The Prophet said, Do you let others benefit by their milk gratis? He replied in the affirmative. Then the Prophet asked, Do you milk them on their watering days and give their milk to the poor and needy? He replied in the affirmative. The Prophet said, Go on doing like this from beyond the seas, and there is no doubt that Allah will not overlook any of your good deeds. Volume 5, Book 58, number 261, narrated by Al-Bara. The first people who came to us in Medina were Musab bin Umar and Ibn Maktum. Then came to us Ammar bin Yasir and Bilal. Volume 5, Book 58, number 262, narrated by Al-Bara bin Azib. The first people who came to us in Medina were Musab bin Umar and Ibn Maktum, who were teaching Quran to the people. Then there came Bilal, Sa'd and Ammar bin Yasir. After that Umar bin al-Khattab came along with 20 other companions of the Prophet. Later on the Prophet himself, to Medina, and I had never seen the people of Medina so joyful as they were on the arrival of Allah's apostle, for even the slave girls were saying, Allah's apostle has arrived. And before his arrival I had read the surah starting with, Glorify the name of your Lord the Most High, 87.1, together with other surahs of Al-Mufassal. Volume 5, Book 58, number 263, narrated by Aisha. When Allah's apostle came to Medina, Abu Bakr and Bilal got fever, and I went to both of them and said, O my father, how do you feel? O Bilal, how do you feel? Whenever Abu Bakr's fever got worse, he would say, Every man will meet his death once in one morning while he will be among his family, for death is really nearer to him than his leather shoelaces to his feet. And whenever fever deserted Bilal, he would say aloud, Would that I know whether I shall spend a night in the valley of Mecca, with Idkir and Jalil, that is kinds of grass, around me, and whether I shall drink one day the water of Mijana, and whether I shall see once again the hills of Shama and Tafil. Then I went to Allah's apostle, and told him of that. He said, O Allah, make us love Medina as much as or more than we used to love Mecca. O Allah, make it healthy and bless its sa and mud, that is measures, and take away its fever to Al-Jufa. Volume 5, Book 58, number 264, narrated by Ubaydullah bin Ad bin Kiyer. I went to Uthman. After reciting Tashahhud, he said, Then after no doubt Allah sent Muhammad with the truth, and I was amongst those who responded to the call of Allah and His Prophet and believed in the message of Muhammad, then took part in the 2 migrations. I became the son-in-law of Allah's apostle, and gave the pledge of allegiance to him. By Allah, I never disobeyed him, nor did I deceive him till Allah took him unto him. Volume 5, Book 58, number 265, narrated by Ibn Abbas. During the last Hajj led by Umar, Abdurrahman bin Auf returned to his family at Mina and met me there. Abdurrahman said to Umar, O chief of the believers, the season of Hajj is the season when there comes the scum of the people, besides the good amongst them, so I recommend that you should wait till you go back to Medina, for it is the place of migration and sunnah, that is the Prophet's tradition, and there you will be able to refer the matter to the religious scholars and the nobles and the people of wise opinions. Umar said, I will speak of it in Medina on my very first sermon I will deliver there. Volume 5, Book 58, number 266, narrated by Al-Ala, an Ansari woman who gave the pledge of allegiance to the Prophet that the Ansaar drew lots concerning the dwelling of the emigrants. Uthman bin Mazun was decided to dwell with them, that is, Al-Ala's family. Uthman fell ill and I nursed him till he died, and we covered him with his clothes. Then the Prophet came to us and I, addressing the dead body, said, O Abu as-Sa'ib, may Allah's mercy be on you, I bear witness that Allah has honored you. On that the Prophet said, How do you know that Allah has honored him? I replied, I do not know. May my father and my mother be sacrificed for you, O Allah's apostle. But who else is worthy of it, if not Uthman? He said, As to him, by Allah, death has overtaken him, and I hope the best for him. By Allah, though I am the apostle of Allah, yet I do not know what Allah will do to me. By Allah, I will never assert the piety of anyone after him. That made me sad, and when I slept I saw in a dream a flowing stream for Uthman bin Mazun. I went to Allah's apostle and told him of it. He remarked, That symbolizes his good deeds. Volume 5, Book 58, number 267, narrated by Aisha. The day of Bu'ath was a day, that is battle, which Allah caused to take place just before the mission of his apostle, so that when Allah's apostle came to Medina, they, the tribes, had divided into hostile groups, and their nobles had been killed, and all that facilitated their conversion to Islam. Volume 5, Book 58, number 268, narrated by Aisha. That once Abu Bakr came to her on the day of Id-ul-Fitr or Id-ul-Adha while the Prophet was with her, and there were 2 girl singers with her singing songs of the Ansaar about the day of Bu'ath. Abu Bakr said twice, Musical instrument of Satan. But the Prophet said, Leave them, Abu Bakr, for every nation has an Id, that is festival, and this day is our Id. Volume 5, Book 58, number 269, narrated by Anas bin Malik. When Allah's apostle arrived at Medina, he alighted at the upper part of Medina among the people called Bani Amr bin Auf, and he stayed with them for 14 nights. Then he sent for the chiefs of Bani an-Najjar, and they came carrying their swords. As if I am just now looking at Allah's apostle on his she-camel with Abu Bakr riding behind him, on the same camel, and the chiefs of Bani an-Najjar around him till he dismounted in the courtyard of Abu Ayyub's home. The Prophet used to offer the prayer wherever the prayer was due, and he would pray even in sheepfolds. Then he ordered that the mosque be built. He sent for the chiefs of Banu an-Najjar, and when they came he said, O Banu an-Najjar, suggest to me the price of this garden of yours. They replied, No, by Allah, we do not demand its price except from Allah. In that garden there were the following things that I will tell you: graves of pagans, unleveled land with holes and pits, etc., and date palm trees. Allah's apostle ordered that the graves of the pagans be dug up and the unleveled land be leveled and the date palm trees be cut down. The trunks of the trees were arranged so as to form the wall facing the Qibla. The stone pillars were built at the sides of its gate. The companions of the Prophet were carrying the stones and reciting some lyrics, and Allah's apostle was with them, and they were saying, O Allah, there is no good excel the good of the hereafter, so bestow victory on the Ansaar and the emigrants. Volume 5, Book 58, number 270, narrated by Abdurrahman bin Humayd az-Zuri. I heard Umar bin Abdulaziz asking As-Sa'ib, the nephew of An-Nimr, What have you heard about residing in Mecca? The other said, I heard Al-Ala bin al-Hadrami saying, Allah's apostle said, An emigrant is allowed to stay in Mecca for 3 days after departing from Mina, that is after performing all the ceremonies of Hajj. Volume 5, Book 58, number 271, narrated by Sal bin Sa'd. The Prophet's companions did not take as a starting date for the Muslim calendar the day the Prophet had been sent as an apostle or the day of his death, but the day of his arrival at Medina. Volume 5, Book 58, number 272, narrated by Aisha. Originally, 2 rakat were prescribed in every prayer. When the Prophet migrated to Medina, 4 rakat were enjoined, while the journey prayer remained unchanged, i.e. 2 rakat. Volume 5, Book 58, number 273, narrated by Sa'd bin Malik. In the year of Hajjat ul-Wada, the Prophet visited me when I fell ill and was about to die because of that illness. I said, O Allah's apostle, I am very ill as you see, and I am a rich man and have no heir except my only daughter. Shall I give 2/3 of my property in charity? He said, No. I said, Shall I then give 1/2 of it in charity? He said, O Sa'd, give 1/3 in charity, and even 1/3 is too much. No doubt it is better to leave your children rich than to leave them poor, reduced to begging from others. And Allah will reward you for whatever you spend with the intention of gaining Allah's pleasure, even if it were a mouthful of food you put into your wife's mouth. I said, O Allah's apostle, am I to be left behind in Mecca after my companions have gone? He said, If you should be left behind, you will be upgraded and elevated for every deed you will do with a desire to achieve Allah's pleasure. I hope that you will live long so that some people will benefit by you, while others will be harmed. O Allah, please fulfill the migration of my companions and do not make them turn back on their heels. But, we feel sorry for, the unlucky Sa'd bin Khawla. Allah's apostle lamented his death in Mecca. Volume 5, Book 58, number 274, narrated by Anas. When Abdur-Rahman bin Auf came to Medina and the Prophet established the bond of brotherhood between him and Sa'd bin Arabi al-Ansari, Saud suggested that Abdur-Rahman should accept half of his property and family. Abdur-Rahman said, "May Allah bless you and your family and property. Guide me to the market." So Abdur-Rahman, while doing business in the market, made some profit of some condensed dry yogurt and butter. After a few days the Prophet saw him wearing clothes stained with yellow perfume. The Prophet asked, "What is this, O Abdur-Rahman?" He said, "O Allah's apostle, I have married an Ansaar woman." The Prophet asked, "What have you given her as mahr?" He, that is Abdur-Rahman, said, "A piece of gold about the weight of a date stone." Then the Prophet said, "Give a banquet, even though of a sheep." Volume 5, Book 58, number 275. Narrated by Anas. When the news of the arrival of the Prophet at Medina reached Abdullah bin Salam, he went to him to ask him about certain things. He said, "I'm going to ask you about 3 things which only a prophet can answer. What is the first sign of the hour? What is the first food which the people of paradise will eat? Why does a child attract the similarity to his father or to his mother?" The Prophet replied, "Gabriel has just now informed me of that." Ibn Salam said, "He, that is Gabriel, is the enemy of the Jews amongst the angels." The Prophet said, "As for the first sign of the hour, it will be a fire that will collect the people from the east to the west. As for the first meal which the people of paradise will eat, it will be the caudate, extra lobe of the fish liver. As for the child, if the man's discharge precedes the woman's discharge, the child attracts the similarity to the man, and if the woman's discharge precedes the man's, then the child attracts the similarity to the woman." On this, Abdullah bin Salam said, "I testify that none has the right to be worshipped except Allah, and that you are the apostle of Allah," and added, "O Allah's apostle. Jews invent such lies as make one astonished, so please ask them about me before they know about my conversion to Islam." The Jews came, and the Prophet said, "What kind of man is Abdullah bin Salam among you?" They replied, "The best of us, and the son of the best of us, and the most superior among us, and the son of the most superior among us." The Prophet said, "What would you think if Abdullah bin Salam should embrace Islam?" They said, "May Allah protect him from that." The Prophet repeated his question, and they gave the same answer. Then Abdullah came out to them and said, "I testify that none has the right to be worshipped except Allah, and that Muhammad is the apostle of Allah." On this the Jews said, "He is the most wicked among us and the son of the most wicked among us." So they degraded him. On this he, that is Abdullah bin Salam, said, "It is this that I was afraid of, O Allah's apostle." Volume 5, Book 58, number 276, narrated by Abu al-Minhal, Abdurrahman bin Mutim. "A partner of mine sold some dirhams on credit in the market. I said, 'Glorified be Allah, is this legal?' He replied, 'Glorified be Allah, by Allah, when I sold them in the market, nobody objected to it.' Then I asked Al-Bara bin Azib about it. He said, 'We used to make such a transaction when the Prophet came to Medina, so he said, there is no harm in it if it is done from hand to hand, but it is not allowed on credit. Go to Zayd bin al-Arqam and ask him about it, for he was the greatest trader of all of us.' So I asked Zayd bin al-Arqam, and he said the same, as Al-Bara did." Volume 5, Book 58, number 277, narrated by Abu Huraira. The Prophet said, "Had only 10 Jews amongst their chiefs believed me, all the Jews would definitely have believed me." Volume 5, Book 58, number 278, narrated by Abu Musa. When the Prophet arrived at Medina, he noticed that some people among the Jews used to respect Ashura, that is 10th of Muharram, and fast on it. The Prophet then said, "We have more right to observe fast on this day," and ordered that fasting should be observed on it. Volume 5, Book 58, number 279, narrated by Ibn Abbas. When the Prophet arrived at Medina, he found that the Jews observed fast on the day of Ashura. They were asked the reason for the fast. They replied, "This is the day when Allah caused Moses and the children of Israel to have victory over Pharaoh, so we fast on this day as a sign of glorifying it." Allah's apostle said, "We are closer to Moses than you." Then he ordered that fasting on this day should be observed. Volume 5, Book 58, number 280, narrated by Abdullah bin Abbas. The Prophet used to keep his hair falling loose while the pagans used to part their hair, and the people of the scriptures used to keep their hair falling loose, and the Prophet liked to follow the people of the scriptures in matters about which he had not been instructed differently, but later on, the Prophet started parting his hair. Volume 5, Book 58, number 281, narrated by Ibn Abbas. They, the people of the scriptures, divided this scripture into parts, believing in some portions of it and disbelieving the others. C. 1591, Volume 5, Book 58, number 282, narrated by Salman al-Farisi, that he was sold as a slave by one master to another for more than 10 times, i.e. between 13 and 19, Volume 5, Book 58, number 283, narrated by Salman I am from Ram Hormuz, that is a Persian town. Volume 5, Book 58, number 284, narrated by Salman. The interval between Jesus and Muhammad was 600 years.